What's going on, Slap fans? We are here post Power Slap number 7. Ding, what'd you think of the event overall, my man?
Look, man, I think we had a lot of surprises. I think we still have quite a bit of issues with the fouls. I know that was talked about in the post fight quite a bit. I think that is always going to overshadow everything great that happened. But I think ultimately we got a lot of clarity in a lot of these divisions, and it was great.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of great fights. We had some upsets. Some things went the way that we did. But the one thing I got to tell you is that even though we've been following this now for, 13, 14 months, we know nothing about betting when it comes to Power Slap, my man. I mean, anything can happen. One strike can take out anybody. And some of the biggest locks, unfortunately, didn't come through. Guy like Wolverine, obviously upset by Turpin. Anthony Blackburn, as we talked about, moments ago on the IG Live, getting the victory over KO Chris. There's just a lot of unknowns when it comes to this sport, people who you think are coming victorious. And then when the fouls and the disqualifications come into play, Dane Viernes, Evon Scott, very interesting. And from my vantage point of being there, I'll tell you some of the strategies I think Evon was able to use to be able to come victorious there, which I thought was incredibly smart because I've never seen anybody use their height advantage in the way that Evon did as he did at Power Slap number 7. So we're going to get into that match as well. We'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk about some of the aftermath of social. The sport has evolved. We talked about Power Slap number 6, and the guys that were chirping, and it was one of the biggest outcries that we've seen. People talking about fouls and disqualifications and stuff like that. As of this point, I mean, you tell me otherwise, Dink, but things seem to be pretty well simmered down for the most part. Things seem to be pretty cordial, and we're not seeing as much of a backlash as we did after Power Slap 6. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, to be honest, I think that this was sort of like a sleeper event. To be frank, the numbers were great, but I just think the buzz ahead of the event just didn't seem like it was there the same way it was around PS6. I attribute that to the long layoff. We had an event in October, and then we waited until February to have it again. Now we're having it just 2 months later. So I think that may have had something to do with it, but I 100% agree with your assessment there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going into it, we've seen that the excitement was there, the hype was building. Obviously coming off the road to the title too, that momentum really started to pick up, and we've seen even on our channel. We've been seeing exponential growth in our numbers, and our subscribers have been happening over the last 45, 60 days. And so it's great to see the strikers getting their due and being able to push that messaging out there. But let's talk right off the bat, the main event of the evening. DeBell going up against Ryan Phillips. In that particular event, we had DeBell taking home a performance bonus in this match, taking care of business in round 4 of Ryan Phillips. I predicted this one would go deep into the rounds. Some people thought it was going to be over in 1-2. Overall, looking at this thing, what did you see from DeBell? And did he impress you up there once again?
I always say, excuse me, obviously I have screaming kids in the background. I apologize, but what I always really enjoy about DeBell is that he's so composed up there. He really kind of hones in, he zones in, and no matter what happens from his opponent, he stays the course. And I always really appreciate that about DeBell. And I think he did nothing different in this fight in that respect. Impressive victory. Obviously, the accumulation of damage proves to be too much. In round 4, he gets Ryan Phillips out of there. Couldn't be a better performance. It shows. Yeah, look at that emotion, man. I mean, again, he believes in himself. We believe in him, but you just can't make this stuff up. Whether it's the first round he gets you out of there or he takes you all the way to the distance and anything in between. He's dangerous on round 1. He's dangerous in round 5. This guy's the entire package. I can't say enough good things about DeBell, the champion.
Yeah, I mean, going into it, the day before, you've probably seen if you're following us on social, we were able to, talk to him outside of Thurka. Never seen DeBell so calm, cool, and collected. He's a very calm guy as it is, but the confidence that was coming out of him, he believed that he won before he even got into that matchup. Never seen him talk as much smack as he did, being usually quite reserved, but he wanted to go in there, obviously accelerates. We got a special feature of DeBell coming up. I will drop the hint here live on Smack Talk that we did film an Origins with DeBell that will be released probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So tune into that, because the origin story of Damen DeBell, incredibly interesting. We got into it, him growing up as a military brat in Oceanside, California, moving over to Florida, in his early teens, how it shaped him, being part of that background into the person that he is today and now dominating. And I think we forget a lot of times, Damen DeBell, 22 years old. We see the experience that he's had, in slap fight championship as well as in power slap, but we forget how young he actually is. And once again, he went in there, came out victorious. Ryan Phillips stepping up to what is, his biggest opportunity here to date. Fellow Vern Cathy in his corner. Ryan Phillips being one of the OG superstars from Road to the Title Series 1, coming out of the event. Unfortunately, was set back by the injury. I haven't really been able to catch up with Ryan too much post-fight here. I'm kind of wondering if that injury still lingered a bit, because we didn't see the same strike from Ryan Phillips as we did in the past. At least from where I stood, from my vantage standpoint, it didn't look like he had the same whip to his strike and the same deliverable through the strike. His strikes seemed to stop much more on the button instead of going through it. I'm not sure if that is Ryan didn't have, as much power on his strikes, or is it that Damen DeBell was just that much stronger of a chin and an opponent that he wasn't able to move, his competitors as he did with a Nate Bernard type of thing. So from your standpoint, Ding, and I know you were listening to the broadcast, Bisbing and Haley talk about it. What were they saying about this match in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they, as you go back and forth, they're really making a lot of the way that the guys responded to the strike. Not so much the technique from the striker, but instead of the defender. And what was, again, I think kudos to Ryan Phillips. Those first 3 strikes he took really well. You didn't see any indication that round 4 was going to be a problem. And I think that's really where Damen DeBell is so dangerous, is that he kind of just comes up out of nowhere and gets you with these things. And he fixed his placement, and he made it to a point where he was able to actually get him out of there without any indication in rounds 1, 2, or 3 that was going to be the case. And I think the broadcast was equally as surprised by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I predicted this one was going late. I said in the weeks leading in, I thought I was going to go deep in a championship round, potentially going to a judge's decision. Damen DeBell being able to take care of business, so I think that was great to see. It's too early to tell if they did announce Power Slap number 8. I believe it's June 28th, the day before UFC 303 as part of International Fight Week. We know that for sure. Too early to tell if Damen DeBell will be able to defend his title at this particular event. But I think from all accounts and, looking at it, I'm sure they would love to have 3 or 4 title defenses at International Fight Week, have a main card filled with title defenses. And I think Damen DeBell could be up there for another shot. Not quite sure yet. I haven't really looked at who would be, stepping up to be able to go against him. But, right now, Damen DeBell continuing on with the dominance that he has. Ding, in the biggest upset of the night, Anthony Blackburn. Let's talk about him a little bit.
Man, I don't think anybody was ready for this one. It's happened, and I'm still not ready for it, if I'm being honest. I couldn't be more happy for Anthony. He had a big shot, a lot on the line. He came through. But, man, I couldn't feel worse or more sympathetic to KO Chris. Everything he's been through, to come up short for the second time, a knockout. I don't know what happens to him from here, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Blackburn came in, took care of business, round 2, wobbled Chris in round 1, taking home a performance bonus as well as the new crypto bonus that I wasn't aware of before this particular match. So Anthony Blackburn taking care of business in that one. But let's run the ending clip of it. The irony of this one, Anthony Blackburn, gets screwed around by his former employer at the pizza joint, comes to Power Slap, makes mad bank in this particular one. For my account, 5 to show, 5 to win, 10 performance bonus, 10 in crypto bonus. So look at that, $30K Anthony Blackburn probably just made his entire month's salary in one night in 2 rounds, taking KO Chris down, going number 6 to number 1. Let's talk about it a little bit. Is Anthony Blackburn ready for Emmanuel Muniz?
Ooh, that's tough, man. I don't know. That's really tough. That's really, really tough. I love that question. I'm gonna say, I mean, he just beat number 1. I mean, if you follow the rankings, yeah, he's there. But I don't. I mean, he presents a different challenge. The way he took those strikes is something that it's just like Manny. So I think this comes down to who hits harder. That's very interesting. That's a great question. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, going into it, we knew Anthony had a chin. We weren't very sure on how his striking ability was going to be. A lot of people didn't know, but Anthony Blackburn was actually injured going into this match. In the content we filmed on Sunday, he had a bruise from his elbow almost up to his wrist. So I don't know. Surprisingly, the gain that he's been able to make, we didn't see that knockout power from him in the past. And so for him to be able to do that, I think is quite impressive. And a guy like KO Chris, who had, a very, extensive resume before his suspension. Now we've seen KO Chris with 2 losses. I mean, looking at it, I'm not really sure, I think I would like to see a warm-up matchup, because I do think there's guys like, Andrew Provost, Jewel Scott kind of sitting there in the wings as well that, have had some victories recently. But with Emmanuel Muniz being off this particular card, I think they're going to want to run him back at International Fight Week. They're putting a lot of marketing dollars behind him right now. I'm sure you're seeing on their socials that he's making fight predictions. He's up there slapping girls in the ass. He's doing lots of stuff hanging around. I don't think he's got a soft spot for that one, but or sour spot for that one in particular. But I do think you see Anthony Blackburn. I think you see him continue that momentum. And, Dana seems to be quite high on him, all of a sudden in 2 rounds, how much has changed for him. And, a guy that took it on short notice, 25 days of notice, he was able to get into training camp and take care of KO Chris Thomas. With that being said, what's next for KO Chris? Where does he go? How much time does he need away?
2 knockouts in 60 days, brother. He needs some time away. I mean, he looked worse this time than he did last time. In the knockout sequence that was. I mean, obviously going up there, he always has his game face on. He's ready. I don't know what he does from here. I don't have the answer for that today, but I will say, my recommendation for whatever, menial amount it's worth, I would recommend that he takes quite a bit of time off. That's a lot of damage that he's taken over the last 60 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Dane, can you go through the comments? I'm just trying to run director here as well. So if you can go through
there's a lot. So we have Jules' names being floated in there as a potential number 1 contender. If we go down that road, Jules Scott he can't be the number 1 contender because he didn't beat the number 1 contender. Anthony Blackburn did, despite it being a 5-man jump. He should be the rightful number 1 contender. So I'm interested when they update these rankings where they'll put him at, but I believe he should be at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen obviously that first match that was actually launched with KO Chris and Joel Scott. And for whatever reason that particular match got scratched, from all accounts, for all we know, it was on Jules' side. Jewel stating that it was, for personal reasons why he wasn't able to. So I don't see how you can make him a number 1 contender, give him a title shot when he actually bowed out for whatever reason, valid or not, doesn't matter. I'm not trying to dog the guy, but you can't give him a title shot after he, declined the opportunity for that number 1 contender matchup. So, I think Anthony Blackburn's right there, and definitely love to see him build some momentum behind him coming off this. Obviously being number 6 was kind of middling in the middle. We didn't see too much of him. Is this a flash in the pan, or does he have a lot more to his game to come? We're going to find out, I think, in very short order, because I think they're going to accelerate him through the ranks as one of these new faces of the sport and try to make it intriguing at the welterweight division.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say congratulations to Cooper Hosley. He's in the chat.
Nice.
We were able to see your knockout. It circulated on social media. So obviously, congratulations there. And the second thing I just wanted to call out really quickly is in UFC, you see it sometimes based on timing not just UFC, MMA in general, where your number 1 contender isn't actually the person who fights for the title next. It depends on who's available. So just because Jules Scott isn't number 1 doesn't mean he won't fight for the title next. It depends on a lot of things. Both guys have to be available. Both guys have to sign on a dotted line. Somebody could slip on a banana peel. So you could see Jules Scott versus Emmanuel Muniz for the World Heavyweight Championship next. It doesn't matter where he falls in the rankings. If number one's not available, they'll go to number two. So that's still, for those of you in the chat, the Jewel fans, don't rule that out. We don't really know what this is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you for the most part, but we're not getting enough events. And I think when you got 8 weeks between events, and you're talking, 16 weeks between title defenses, oftentimes where you're seeing guys like Manny, compete, at 6, take 7 off, potentially come back at 8. I don't know the last time we've seen John Davis, to be honest. Was it Power Slap
5 in October? Yeah, 5 versus October. In October.
So, there's not enough title defenses. I think, with the UFC wanting to run it back quicker, more events to be able to do, it seems like, 3 out of 4, weeks of the month you have UFC events. So I don't know. I'm not sure that that's a direct correlation. I know there's some correlations that we talked about before that, kind of carry over from UFC. We've yet to see it happen in Power Slap. And I think just because of the number of events, I know Dana talked about Lorenzo being very adamant that we get more events so that we can reduce the number of fouls, reduce the number of disqualifications. But then ultimately, I think you will see something like this happen more frequently if those events are running much more congruently. I think by the end of the year, I could very well see this every 4 weeks, happen. I think we could see that they can double the number of events that they're doing in 2025. Very, very easy, hands down. I think I could see that happen, with a blend of the actual competing in Vegas as well as taking international. One interesting tidbit of information, and I'm not going to disclose my source, but it is one very, very valid, is that an email went out to all of the strikers on the Power Slap roster. And it said, if you want to be able to compete in international events, we strongly recommend that you apply for a passport and book your appointments now. So we do know by that email going out that they are very serious. Maybe they're actually close to going international. And dang, if that's the case, where are they going? Because as of right now, as far as I know, being a Canadian, American on the mainland doesn't need a passport to go to Hawaii. So where would it be otherwise?
So Dana said in response to a question, and I don't know if I lost this in translation. That'll go up on our social media this week, just as a conversation point. But he said that they're going international in October. They always do the Abu Dhabi card for UFC in October. He said that in response to doing more events and international prospects. So I think we have a Power Slap overseas in October in Abu Dhabi. I'm putting that out there now. Screenshot it, screen record it. I believe that that's the case. That's what I heard from Dana White.
Yeah. I remember hearing that comment as well, and I wasn't sure 100% how to take it. It makes a lot of sense. I think the Saudis would absolutely love this particular thing. We know they're going there, I believe, mid-October, correct?
Yeah, they always do. Every year. They have a deal to go every year in October.
Yeah, so October, and definitely an exciting thing to see. Let's and you touched on a little bit. Cooper Hosley. Let's play the footage. Man, the sound of that slap, absolutely incredible against Ronald Stanton. Right on the button, had him down. So this was in regards, this is actually something that Cooper Hosley said when I spoke to him later on in the evening. Apparently Ronald Stanton was down for over 3.5 minutes after that particular slap. The longest time.
Stevie Ray Payne.
Oh, sorry. Was it Stevie Ray Payne?
Yeah, he fought Stevie Ray.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought it. My bad.
Yeah. For Cooper was Stevie Ray Payne.
Yeah, Cooper and Stevie Ray Payne. Apparently, Stevie Ray Payne was down on the mat for over 3.5 minutes, the longest in Power Slap history to date. What did you see in that slap day?
I don't know, man. That was some serious stuff. I want to say I'm surprised by that. I haven't seen a ton from Cooper, but I also at the same time, we got a new prospect in the heavyweight division. Yeah, take home that performance bonus. Great to see Cooper Hosley making a name for himself. When those rankings come out, we expect to see a huge jump for him being able to take advantage of it the way that he did.
So I think it's great to see we're currently number 9 on the rankings. Stevie Payne was number 10. I could very well see him moving up potentially in that range of Brian Ellis, Logan Greenhall, 5'6" type of thing, and get another opportunity here very, very soon against some worthy competitors in that top 5 range.
I'm going to say it right now. Give him Sass Billy. Sass Billy needs something, man. I feel bad for that guy. We need Sass Billy.
Yeah, I mean, Sass Billy, unfortunately, things didn't go his way.
But they went as planned. They did go as planned. You can't say they didn't go as planned because a lot of people called this.
Yeah. I wasn't one of them. I thought it was going to happen. I really did. I thought that we were going to get a match. Corey Corbin was there in Las Vegas. I really thought that this particular match was going to go down. But this once again, we don't see James Stonier at the event.
Twice in less than a year, he's been stood up by a man.
Yeah.
What happened with Slappy Joe's match? He defeated the Chief by disqualification.
Correct. Yes. I don't know if I have that footage. I don't believe I do. I don't have that footage. So the Hawaiian sensation, how do you say his name?
Let's just go with let's just go with the Chief.
The Chief. Yeah. I did see the footage though, and I did see the footage of his strike. It was quite incredible. Obviously, it was I believe it was a stepping foul.
It was a step. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a stepping foul that took Joe Lamon out. Wasn't able to continue in that particular match. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm curious to see when they're gonna release these fights because they released the outcomes and the final slaps. When are we gonna see the entire matchup on those 3 undercard matches on Rumble? Hopefully relatively soon. Let's talk about the start of the night, my man.
Oh Russell. God, what a guy, man! What a comeback! That height difference was major. I couldn't be more impressed. He's just got to work. He's got to work on that feet, man. No, those feet. Excuse me. A lot of concern, a lot of power. We get it, but those stepping fouls with a guy like that, we could see a repeat of AJ Hinch, Russell Rivera number 2. We obviously don't want to see that. He's got to work on that, especially.
Yeah, I mean, this one was another instance where you had a massive height difference, and it also comes into play. What is a minor heel lift versus a step? Because when you go back and you watch the footage, Russell's heel did come off. What I will say in Russell's defense is that it did not twist, which we know that there was an emphasis of power. So number 6, they were allowing more of a heel lift to take place as long as there wasn't that rotation inwards. You go back, you look at it, there was definitely quite a substantial heel lift on it. However, the refs didn't call it. I don't know how you judge what a minor heel lift is versus stepping. One thing with Cody Belial is he's a very tall competitor to Russell Rivera. And so as I was alluding to earlier, where I thought Evon Scott did a very good job with, Cody Belial, traditionally what we've seen him do, crouch down more, engage the traps, and brace for that impact. But what we've seen was a different defense from Cody Belial. We've seen him standing much more upright. He was using his height to his advantage, standing much more upright, and actually trying to draw Russell into stepping as Russell has to reach higher for the particular slap itself. The flinch in the beginning, obviously, our man Michael Bisping on Demon time during the review or during the live broadcast wasn't holding anything back. There was that flinch, obviously happened, a lot of damage being taken place. Even if there was a step, the flinch takes precedent over the step. So he was rewarded a second strike, which we still seen that heel lift again, but he took care of Cody. The ref, waved it off. Cody didn't hit the mat. He stood up, but the ref didn't allow him to continue in that particular match to be able to show Cody's offensive side. But done in round 1, Russell Rivera taking care of business once again. We see the fans of Russell Rivera come out loud and proud again, in terms of the engagement and the social numbers. Russell still is proving that he has low-key superstar power every time he gets up there and power slap, and the fans want to continue to see him. From your perspective, Dig, this particular matchup, Russell Rivera taking home that extra bonus. I just wish Russell would take this more seriously and do it for more than just the money, because he's very clearly doesn't train for this. Very clearly, we know he's got a great job and everything else. He does it for the paycheck, but unfortunately, he just isn't the most marketable person when he gets up there in front of the camera in regards to pushing this sport forward with, I think, their ideal candidate of a striker and how they want to portray their brand going forward as a real true athlete or combat sports athlete. Hey, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say two things. One, if you flinch, Michael Bisping thinks you're a bitch, and that's on Rumble. You can go look at that. Just listen to the commentary. The second thing I'll say is I thought it was interesting that Cody would have fallen if the catchers allowed him to. I think maybe they made a mistake because it was the first match of the night, and they kind of followed him more than they usually do. So he didn't even fall at all. I mean, he would have fell. It would have been like a typical knockdown, but not a knockout. He was coherent per se, or conscious, if you will, but they didn't let him fall down. I thought that was interesting because he definitely would have fallen down had they let him. Obviously, you don't want him to fall off the stage, but if you watch it, they kind of followed him back, which is unusual. And I know I said I'll say two things, but I'll say a third thing. If you're a guy that's doing it for the paycheck, you go out there, you get the guy out of there in round one, and you don't take a slap. I think that's a pretty successful day at the office. So if he's doing it for the money and he got a bonus, he's doing a great job. But I agree with you. I think from a marketing standpoint, I don't think that he's as invested in this because of why he's here. So longer term, he's just not really a guy you can put all your chips on. Totally. And without the training, you have that fear that you're going to have an AJ Hinch, Russell Rivera number 2 consistently throughout his career. We saw it again with AJ, where he seems like he's susceptible to these illegal strikes that would render him unable to continue, and then the other person gets the L and he gets a W just by disqualification.
Totally. Cooper Hosley in the comment section, he dropped some really good information because he would have been there in the rule meeting that the Athletic Commission would have put on. The way it was explained to me, heels can come up on either foot as long as toe stays down and you don't twist. And then secondly, you are allowed, however, to move the feet after contact has been made. So some really good insight there from Cooper Hosley. Obviously the rules are still evolving event to event. And, I think trying to get some consistency across the board is incredibly important. We see them go to replay a lot more this time, which I think is good. But seeing it in real time and trying to get to the interviews, like I said, I can't speak to the overall consistency of the card if it was judged fairly from match to match, depending on the particular ref that was at the helm. What were they saying on the broadcasting?
The broadcast is never going to criticize the refs, man, ever. It'll never happen. You'll never hear it.
I hear you, my man. All right, let's get back to it. A couple things I know they're on social that you wanted to kind of bring up, things that you thought were interesting this week. AJ Hinch.
Excuse the language, folks.
Go on, Ding. Keep on going, man.
Yeah. So obviously, excuse the language. But they're still going at it. And this is an unusual one because you guys have already fought. So you're still going at it, chirping who won, who didn't. There's only one person who won, whether they won by fluke, by not fluke, whether it was illegal or wasn't. It was called illegal. It was a disqualification. AJ Hinch is the winner. Move on. It's over. You had your shot, and it's over. I think you move on. But both of these guys are going back and forth. They're making videos. They're posting, is this a clean slap? I mean, just move on. Move on to your next opponent. Start selling your next fight, and move forward. Because if we see this fight again, I think that appeal, that taste for this is over. I think it's the way that fight turned out was disappointing. Not that either guy didn't perform well or anything. It's just the outcome. Nobody wants to see somebody win by disqualification, especially when they've been dropped by somebody else. And it was just messy. It didn't end the way anybody wanted it to. There's no real decisive victor. So either, just move on. I don't think you see this fight again anytime soon. I don't think that there's a taste for it or a need for it. I think you move forward and start figuring out what's next for a guy like Azael, who now is probably not number one contender anymore, and a guy like AJ Hinch, who by all technicality, it would be.
So I don't know. How do we feel about a guy like AJ Hinch getting that number one contender number one contender spot on a disqualification, and what does that mean for John Davis? Because to me, I think it muddies the water. I personally, this is the stance that I take. I don't think you can give a guy a title shot coming off disqualification victory. Some people may disagree with me on that, but I think it really muddies that middleweight division, as we talked about earlier. We haven't seen John Davis since Power Slap number 5. I think the brass at Power Slap is going to have to get creative here in regards to who they can pin up, because I'm sure they want to get John back and running very, very soon. And I'm not sure who they pin up against him in that next title defense. If you ask me at this particular moment, I think we talked about it last week as well. Before we see the outcome of this match, you might see somebody else like a Vern Cathy come down from 185. I could very well see that particularly happen. I think with his resume and his recent victories, I could see them potentially doing something like that. But I don't know. In that middleweight division, I'm not really sure that we've got a clear-cut contender. I know we talk about all the time. Wesley Drain kind of, boiling around there. Brandon Bordeaux, I don't think we've quite seen enough yet. I think we see some raw talent there and the ability to, but we need to see him take somebody out like a Garrett Grimes, Wesley Drain, maybe even Azael before I think you see him move up in that ranking. But for now, I think we see obviously AJ Static Hinch kind of pull back a little bit. He'll probably need a bit of time off with that KO. He's definitely collected a lot of checks, as you said before, off of the disqualification, but I think it muddies the middleweight division overall.
I agree with that, man. I think give Bordeaux a shot to earn a shot, if that makes sense. So give him somebody who's between numbers 1 and 3, because he's number 4, and let him prove that he's ready for that step. I agree. Disqualification, title contender stuff, that's muddy, but we have the same problem as super heavyweight right now, where number 1 just lost via disqualification to Evon Scott. So I don't know. I guess we're going to set a precedent here one way or the other. Ultimately, I think the sport is new enough that people will look the other way no matter what. A fight is a fight. But I think in Evon Scott's predicament, particularly because of his inexperience, I don't know that that's a good idea. Any more than I would say in middleweight, but I think middleweight you have a little bit more of a fighting chance, if you will, because of all that AJ's accomplished in a short period of time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Dang, I'm gonna throw it to you. Do we have a new best trash talker in Power Slap? Do we really?
Best trash talker in Power Slap? No, not him. Not him. Well, it's not in here, but
Jimmy Jumps.
He made some threats.
Jimmy Jumps.
He made a couple threats about starting his own organization. I just don't think he's going about this the right way, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Jimmy Jumps. He's dropped some really good liners, talking about teabagging people, some funny stuff overall. He's in there. We know he's hungry. We know he's even calling out Robert Trujillo. Interesting guy. Love what he's trying to do. Obviously trying to make himself relevant. His skill set hasn't shown out well yet in Power Slap. Hopefully we'll see him back at the 185. So I think we'll be good to go, my man. But let's talk about that super heavyweight match, because we've got the title holder, the Crazy Hawaiian, in the house. My man, how you doing?
What's up, boys?
What's happening? What'd you think of the card overall?
It was this kind of disappointing in a way where, this is our 7th event and we got some supposed old timers that are still creating fouls. I don't think a lot of people understand how technical the sport is. And even with my brother, he could blame it on the shoes, but I just think, the opponent being that tall, he could have came up, right up on the podium, maybe about 3 more inches, and just, hit him without moving forward. But all in all, no excuses. Everyone, they showed out. There's a few good knockouts, but for the super heavyweights, man, I'm just waiting for a call. Whoever you guys think deserves the shot, it could be I don't know who deserves a shot. Who does? I called all the aliens, all the celestials, because I don't believe anyone is deserving of the shot. But they got the king of this, the real king of this, just sitting at home, being a dad, which is cool and all, but I gotta eat, I gotta feed my kids, um, and this is I just picked up a job as a private security armed guard, just to make up for it not being in the on the big stage for a little bit, but I know I'm gonna get the call. I can't guarantee anything, but your boy is ready. I've
Yeah.
been ready.
Yeah. I mean, from my vantage point, I had a direct side angle of the actual match itself. And so one of the particular interesting things that I seen was that the height differential was the first time I've ever seen it between your brother and Evian Scott. And the way that Evian played his defense, he stood very, very straight. He had his stomach against the podium. I don't want to say he was leaning back, but he was incredibly straight. Your brother could not strike Evian square on the chin without stepping.
Yes.
It was impossible. That heel was coming off for him to make actual contact. So it was the first time that we've seen such a height advantage with your brother playing it. He alluded to a little bit earlier, which I thought was interesting. He kind of left it up in the air that he hinted that he might go with the right, but I think it was a bit of gamesmanship that obviously we've seen him with his left before. But did your brother train for this? Because the interview that we talked to him he was saying that he literally took this entire break off. No boxing, no weight training, was just working. Like, is that
true.
actually true?
That's 100% true, and it's him really watching me in a spot where he was supposed to be, where they were building him up to be. Um, a lot of people don't know it, but they took me out of my current contract just to replace my brother, and then I became the champ. I feel like just off the fact that he's not in the position where I'm at, he did take it seriously to the point where he's not doing the extra stuff, but he did not train for it. I don't think a lot of people know this, but we don't really train for something like this. Although it's a real sport, but I think we just got the natural talent for it. We got the chin for it. It's really an advantage for us to do this sport compared to a bunch of other things because I feel like we're just built for it. And you guys can see that, a bunch of my first fights I didn't train for. My title fight I did train for, and I trained every day for. So I believe if we do, end up really training for this, we could potentially really hurt somebody. So as us coming off the couch and putting on a show the way we do, I think that's the name of the game right there. Yeah, you can train for it all you want, but it's the technical part of it. People lose off of technicality. So it's sad, but who's next for me? That's what I want to know.
Slap for cash.
I don't know. I don't know. He has to redeem himself. I could possibly, see a rematch with me, Kalani, or even, McKinney, or, even Danny. But they all have to go down the chain of command. And I'll be willing to give Evian a shot, but we all know how easy that would be for me. If my brother did what he did, it's a closer for me. I'm gonna have to be like the biggest betting odds. So that's what I think. Not not being big headed about it or nothing, trying to be humble, but I just want to give everybody a fair shot. You can train as hard as you want, but we're at the pinnacle of it. Me and my brothers and all the Hawaiians, and we are hard headed. We are hard headed. Us Hawaiians, we are hard headed because I've been telling all these Hawaiians what to do, but even Kelly's stepping foul, I didn't see him step. I didn't. So I don't know if it's officiating or what, but we all got to be better as an organization, as a team, as a competitor. I told them that I want to be a coach just because I see these guys. They're doing good as coaches. They're hyping them up and all that, but a lot of them need to start talking to them about their technique. between rounds, you have to be watching what your guy's doing and what he's doing wrong. I hear this, you got to go through them. You got to go through them. But in reality, we need to work on technique, because as soon as everyone gets better with the technique, then we're going to find out who is really the best,
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
But, I think you're going to see the Nebraska Power Slap rush Evon. We've seen some people rush, they've been rushed to start him before. Even a guy like Austin Turpin getting a title shot, I believe, after 2 matches. So we've seen them express, do I think he's ready? No, I don't. Do I think he's in that opportunity to be able to get it? I think they would love nothing more to have you at Power Slap number 8, International Fight Week, have you as that main event, the face there, and arguably one of the, the mainstays of UFC every single week. Evon's raw. I think, he's still playing semi-professional football, which I think is different than some of these other heavyweights. I know Kalani also, plays football. McKinney, I believe, is a year or two removed from playing football. So him actively in season, going to do Power Slap, training every day. I know football doesn't always equate to Power Slap. I'm not trying to make that parallel, but I do think Evon is somebody that they are, cast typing as the type of athlete that they want to see. So I personally think that they'll fast track them into it. And, we'll see. Obviously, it doesn't give us the match I think a lot of the fans want to see, you versus your brother yet. Once again, your brother's going to have to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out, how to do this. And I mean, I think for this sport to move forward, in all honesty, we need to see athletes training. There's no way that, one, you could say you're real athletes, 2, get off the, if you're coming off the couch, it's, and I'm not trying to dog it, but I think we've got to, how do I say it? If the athletes are taking it seriously, the fans will take it seriously. We're not going to get the best if it's not being actually taken seriously and trained day to day. Yeah. And so I think, as you alluded to, and I know we talked about obviously previously about wanting to one day open up, a school or a camp and really practice and hone in that technique and get these younger athletes, more experience before they actually get up there. And as Dana and Lorenzo talked about, having more events, I think will give people more experience, which will reduce the amount of disqualifications. But correct me if I'm wrong, Dean, was there 3 matches on this particular card that ended with disqualification? Because we had the Joe Landman. Landman.
Well, it was 2 plus the undercard one.
Okay, so 3 total.
So if you count Joe Landman, 3.
Yeah, so of 11 matches, we've got 3. So I mean, it's not a good sign, especially when they're number 1 contender matches, that now muddies the super heavyweight and the middleweight. Overall. So I think kind of raising that bar. And could you imagine, how many fights have you had, the Crazy?
My record now is 18-1 all in all, but I'm 3-0 in Power Slap.
Okay. Could you imagine if you were actually training day in, day out, hard, grinding, like nobody could touch you, my man. You've got 1 loss in your career. I think we could see really honing in, especially if you're just being a dad, my man. Love to see you up there actually doing this stuff for a prolonged time. And I know oftentimes you don't get the notice. We hear often, 3-4 weeks before the cards, you're getting calls to book these fights. If they called you right now and said June 28th, you were up and running. Would you take it a little bit differently? Would you get in that gym now and really hone in?
I'm the champ, so it's I take it seriously. I really, really do feel like getting here was and is gonna be a lot easier than holding this belt. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I do, training at home, and I do have a new strength coach. I do have a new performance kind of doing it different, because this whole career of doing this, I really strongly believe I was kind of just just felt like I didn't need God. I have him in my head, but you got to go to church sometimes.
100%, my man. Great to hear that you're training. I'm sure we'll see you up there soon. Anybody you want to call out?
Everybody, all the top 5 that's in my weight class. They could bring the Francis Ngannou. I don't know, somebody from the UFC, a real athlete, come and do this uh thing we call sport, and we'll see. We don't get a fair shake as being a mainstream sport, but we're getting there. Everyone has to tighten up on the technique. A lot of people don't realize that it's not about just hitting the person as hard as you can. There's a sweet spot, and if you practice it every day, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get good at it. So anybody in my weight class, I am ready to defend my belt.
We have some people in the comments talking about Zales and wanting to see you, be able to revenge that loss. Is that something that keeps you up at night?
Not really, because I know he won't be able to pass the drug test. But I'm willing. I'm willing to give him a shot at this belt. But he might have to do a little bit of side missions before that. But we gotta see if he's got the right technique for what we're trying to put together as a sport. And as a future Hall of Famer, I want to be able to knock down those defeats.
Awesome, my man. Appreciate you joining me once again. As always, you have a home here anytime you want to come on.
All right, man. Hey,
all right, buddy.
Slap News is the best. You heard it here first, baby. Let's go.
Thanks, my man. Take care, dude. We'll talk to you soon.
Easy.
All right, Dane. The Crazy Hawaiian, always exciting, entertaining, brings the raw, real truth, whether he's talking about people failing drug tests or whether he's actually giving us the insight of what his brother not training. Really good to always have him on, get that expertise. I think everybody here can say that they want to see the Crazy Hawaiian back up there, and we'll see. I think they got to get creative in that super heavyweight division once again, because it's obviously muddied with the DQ victory of Evon Scott. But for some reason, I just have a feeling that he's going to get expedited through the ranks. In the post-fight interview, which I believe is up on our YouTube channel now, Evon Scott afterwards said that he'd actually like to have one more match before going up against the Crazy Hawaiian. We're not sure if that's going to happen or not, or how much that's going to influence or impact the outcome of it. But I'll tell you, Evon, if you're watching it right now and Erica or Frank give you a call and tell you want to go up against the Crazy Hawaiian, I think you take that opportunity, because it's one strike away from, potential loss, whether it's against, a guy like Kalani, Danny, McKinney, and you may not get that chance, that opportunity. So if anyone calls, including you, Jules Scott, if they call you and tell you that they want you to go in middleweights, you accept, because you never know what can happen. I see you smirking, Ding.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Crazy Hawaiian is the apex predator of power slap. He's top of the food chain at the heaviest weight. One little wild card I think we could see is a heavyweight that moves up. Some of these guys who have to cut weight to make 264, 265, 266. I mean, you never know. If you can make 300 pounds or so, at that size, you could really give somebody a run for the money, even with an 80-pound or so deficit. Look at Slap for Cash and Hawaiian Hitman. He gave up 100 pounds, and he knocked him out. So I think that's another opportunity. Maybe Ryan Phillips says the hell with heavyweight and moves up. I don't know, because he is very powerful. But the champion at that weight is just a little bit. He has the chin. He's the full package, and so he was able to get that done.
Yeah, hanging around circa UFC Apex, we've seen Dwayne Crespo. We know that he is a corporate guy. We know he will be able to go up to super heavy if Nebraska Power Slam want him to do so. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for Dwayne potentially going up to super heavy. We know he's a number 2 contender right now, in the heavyweight division, so he's definitely at the top of that. But I could see a guy like Dwayne bring a little bit more athleticism to that division. He's over the weight cap already. He's looking pretty thick right now, and we know he's training hard. So I could see a guy like that as well potentially get into it. What's going on, Dink? I'm not calling him fat. I mean, he's looking good, man. He's up there in weight. He's like 265.
I didn't say
good,
anything,
man.
and you said it. So I'm just saying. I'll just call it. Look, spade to spade, brother. You said he looks like he's over the weight. He's looking thick. So I was just you said it, not me.
Our boy likes to eat, man. It definitely no
again,
shade.
it goes back to
this
very unusual predicament these guys are in, right? You have number 2 Dwayne Crespo, who defeated Ryan Phillips, who's number 1, who just fought for the title. Dwayne Crespo lost to the champion previously. He also lost to number 3 previously in Nate Bernard. So, I mean, what do you do with a guy like that, right? Do you give him a title shot off of just the fact that the other 2, lost more recently? Do you make him face somebody down in the rank? Like, what do you do with a guy like Dwayne Crespo in this situation? I think moving up to super heavyweight is not such a bad thing, but you have to be able to pack on that weight. You got to make sure that you hit hard, because these guys up there are on a totally different level when it comes to the strength factor. I'm not saying they all have chins, but when you look at a guy like Kalani, when you look at the champion, when you look at a guy like McKinney, when you look at a guy like Danny, these guys create damage. They're very powerful. And they're, I don't know, we haven't seen it yet to really say, but there may be a big difference in that power as it goes from heavyweight to super heavyweight.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Do you recall what Ryan Phillips weighed in for this particular match?
Ryan Phillips was 255.
So he wasn't even at the cap.
He was not.
Of 265. So extra 10 pounds to go. But yeah, interesting to see. I mean, we'll see where that goes. Anything else you want to talk about from Power Style number 7? I know we're going to come back. Obviously, Smack Talk will be coming to you every Tuesday, 3 p.m. right here on our YouTube channel, Pacific time, 6 o'clock in the East. Anything else you want to wrap up? Power Stop number 7.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Austin Turpin, man. Knocks the champion down not once but twice, gets a finish. But, right, if I could draw a little star, a little asterisk, but he missed weight by 17 pounds. And he's also – this is a heavyweight fight. So he's got the weight difference. Everybody's always going to ask the question, was it the weight that changed things? Can he do that at 205? Can he make 205? We did a poll on our channel. If you guys saw it, it was pretty close. But the fans say that Austin Turpin should fight somebody else at light heavyweight, and then he should get the trilogy. That was the one that was voted for most often. I actually agree with that. I think that's a great idea. Corey, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, very, very odd situation. I can't say I've ever seen someone miss weight by that much. Am I surprised? Not particularly. We've seen Austin Turpin, obviously, Power Style number 6, looked incredibly heavy. And we knew that it was going to be incredibly difficult for him to get down. We knew he went dark. We should have known when we weren't hearing the same thing from him leading into fight week, as we were accustomed to. He was very, very quiet with it. Coming in, he wasn't able to make that weight, as you said. Dana, Frank loves to see, and we heard from Dana post-fight that a trilogy is being in the works potentially for Power Stop number 8. I don't know how exciting it is. To be quite frank and honest, I don't know how exciting. I don't know how you frame this storyline. As soon as they announced DeBell and Ryan Phillips, the promotion for this second fight disappeared. It kind of went off the map, to be honest with you. Wolverine, not the most outgoing and talkative person. Austin kind of went silent. I'm just not sure how you build that hype around this particular matchup, to be completely honest. I don't know, and we see from a second time, I don't think Wolverine has the ability to put Austin away. So I think Austin definitely gets an upper hand going into a third particular match. Talking about whether he's deserving of it or not is not here nor there. I mean, it's very, obviously what we think doesn't particularly matter in this regard. We know he got fined quite heavily for missing weight. We know Wolverine, as I said before, has 30,000 reasons to do it, because we know he got his show money, plus he got his win bonus. They changed to him striking first. So he definitely got a lot of credence, in doing so here. It would have been a big shame if they would have scratched this particular match, obviously. But I don't know. It seems to be we've seen more respect from these two athletes. We've seen Austin Turpin shake Wolverine's hand at the face-off. I think a lot of that beef has been squashed. I think some of that has been put aside. And like I said, I just don't know the storyline and how you get the fans excited to see this a third time. And I do inevitably think that it does actually sway in Austin's favor this third time around. And yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see something else happen. Just to be quite honest, because I think we're all still, Austin Turpin should be the champ right now. Like, let's be real. If he was able to come in, as we kind of talked about earlier, some of the guys talked above, some of the strikers, about being pro athletes and acting the way, he should be champ. So hard to say where it's going to go, but that's kind of my thoughts and feelings around it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, on the subject of doing something else, I think number 3 Russell Rivera versus the champion isn't a bad next matchup. Like I said, we talked about this. I don't know that AJ is the best person. Not to mention, this would be not AJ. Excuse me. Turpin's the best person to run this back. So that kind of leaves with AJ out of the division. Turpin having been number 1 at light heavyweight. I think give Russell an opportunity to crack at the light heavyweight champion, and then figure out what you do from there, depending on that outcome. Because if Wolverine's no longer champion, I don't think Turp cares for the trilogy anyway, to be frank. If he does, I'd be surprised. Because championship is where the money's going to be at.
I agree. But you're over an interesting point. I think Russell Rivera could actually be primed for that. I think Russell Rivera has been kind of chomping at the bit and could have that other opportunity to kind of come back here. So let's make it happen, my man. All right, buddy. Let's sign off.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You know where to find the best news, and realistically, the only news.